In this video, we're going to take a closer look at overtime pay, one of the most important and highly regulated aspects of compensation. Overtime is more than just extra pay for extra hours. It's a legally required form of differential pay that protects employees and ensures fairness in the workplace. For HR professionals, understanding overtime isn't optional, it's essential. It directly impacts payroll accuracy, compliance, and employee trust. When handled correctly, it reinforces fairness. When handled incorrectly, it can create significant legal and employee relations challenges. Overtime is governed by the Fair Labor Standards Act, or FLSA, the federal law that sets the foundation for wage and hour requirements in the United States. Under the FLSA, employees who are classified as non-exempt must be paid overtime when they work more than 40 hours in a single work week. This is often associated with hourly employees, but it's important not to use those terms interchangeably. An employee can be salaried and still be non-exempt, and therefore eligible for overtime. Overtime is calculated at 1.5 times the employee's regular rate of pay, commonly referred to as time and a half. This structure is intentional. It ensures employees are fairly compensated for additional time worked, while also encouraging organizations to manage workloads and staffing thoughtfully. One of the most important concepts in overtime is employee classification, and this is where the language really matters. Not all employees are eligible for overtime, and the key distinction comes down to whether they are classified as exempt or non-exempt. Non-exempt employees are not exempt from overtime requirements, which means they must be paid overtime when they work beyond 40 hours in a work week. Exempt employees, on the other hand, are exempt from those requirements and do not receive overtime pay. This classification isn't arbitrary. It's based on specific factors such as job duties, level of responsibility, and how the employee is compensated. For HR professionals, getting this right is critical. Misclassification can lead to serious compliance issues, including back pay, penalties, and legal risk. Determining whether an employee is exempt or non-exempt is one of the most important and often misunderstood decisions in compensation. First, it's important to know that job title alone does not determine classification. Calling someone a manager or administrator does not automatically make them exempt. Instead, employers rely on 3 key tests. The first is the salary basis test, meaning the employee is paid a fixed salary that does not change based on hours worked. The second is the salary level test, which requires that the employee earns at least a minimum threshold set by federal law. And finally, the most critical piece, the duties test. This looks at the actual work the employee performs. To be classified as exempt, the employee's primary responsibilities must meet specific criteria, such as executive, administrative, or professional duties. If any of these tests are not met, the employee is considered non-exempt, meaning they are not exempt from overtime and must be paid accordingly. For HR professionals, this is where careful evaluation and documentation are essential. Getting this classification right is not just about compliance. It's about fairness, consistency, and protecting both the employee and the organization. Let's walk through an example that ties this all together. Imagine 2 employees working in the same organization during a particularly busy week. One employee is paid $14 per hour and is classified as non-exempt, meaning they are not exempt from overtime. The other employee is a salaried manager earning $50,000 per year and is classified as exempt based on their duties and how they are paid. Both employees work more than 40 hours that week. The exempt employee will continue to receive their regular salary regardless of the additional hours worked. Their classification means they are exempt from overtime pay. The non-exempt employee, however, must be paid overtime. Because they are not exempt, any hours worked beyond 40 are paid at time and a half. With a base rate of $14 per hour, their overtime rate increases to $21 per hour for those additional hours. This example highlights an important point. Overtime, eligibility is not just about how someone is paid, but how they are classified. And when applied correctly, it ensures employees are compensated fairly for the extra time and effort they contribute. From an HR perspective, managing overtime requires precision. This includes tracking hours accurately, ensuring proper employee classification, and maintaining compliance with legal requirements. It also involves educating managers and employees so expectations are clear and consistently applied across the organization. At the end of the day, overtime is about fairness, protection, and accountability. It ensures employees are compensated for their time, supports employee satisfaction, and helps organizations remain compliant with federal law. When managed well, overtime reinforces trust and demonstrates that employee contributions are valued.